Undying symbols of loyalty. These 47 samurai retainers gave their lives to avenge the honor of their lord. Known as the Ako Gishi, they are still venerated here at Ako for the ultimate sacrifice they made in 1702. Their action was widely appreciated at the time, acclaimed as expressing the ideals of the samurai. The shogunate prohibited the depiction of actual events in the samurai society, but many plays and images depicted this infamous event, evading censorship by changing the time period and names of the characters. The most famous kabuki play relating the story of the Ako Gishi is called the Chushingura. This play inspired over 4,000 ukiyo-e woodblock prints. Performed on stage over 7,000 times in various genres, more than 300 years later, the story continues to inspire novelists and movie makers. Their story began here, in Ako Castle. Built in the mid-17th century as the castle of the lords of Ako, it stood for about 2 centuries until being mostly dismantled by government order in 1884. Construction of the castle was ordered by Asano Naganao after he became ruler of the Ako domain in 1645.
何せね、城が作られない時代に作られた城なんですよ。通常だったらもう平和な時代になってお城作りが幕府に制限されてた時にですね、極めて異例な作られるはずがない時期に作られた城だから珍しい城なんです。だから見るだけの価値がある。これがね、赤穂城の魅力ですね。
Ako Castle's location on flat land adjoining the coast was naturally protected by mountains, rivers, and the Seto Inland Sea, and the coastal side gave it influence over the sea trade. This castle was built during a long period free from warfare. However, these years of peace saw major developments in the study of warfare, building on the tactics and methods that evolved during the Warring States period. The Koshu School of Military Science pioneered many new approaches to the art of war. This wooden model illustrates some of the ideas of the Koshu School. Kondo Masazumi, Ako Castle's designer, was a retainer of the Asano clan who had been taught by Obata Kagenori, founder of the Koshu School.
赤穂城はですね、非常に珍しい設計なんですね。江戸時代初めの築城科学があるんですよ。甲州流軍学、江戸時代強いので有名だったのは戦国時代の武田信玄勝頼の武田家ですね。でこれ非常にお城作りも戦国時代から発達してました。多分最初で最後の機会じゃないかと。こんな全面的にですよ、お城を自分たちの頭の中で脳内で作った甲州流軍学のお城が本当に目の前に出現するわけですから、どこがその甲州流軍学の技術があるいは工夫が現れてるかっていうのを残ってるお城から我々は見ることができると。非常にユニークな他の城には見られない仕組みや構造がたくさんあるわけです。
The layout of a Japanese castle is called the nawabari. Ako Castle's Nawabari has 3 zones: the inner Honmaru citadel, the Ninomaru, and the Sannomaru. The Nawabari is made up of an extremely complex arrangement of stone walls. There are a few straight sections and many sharp angles. This is the gate to the Honmaru. In that period, the usual method was for large numbers of attackers to storm gates with battering rams. To make this difficult, the road approaches at an angle. If the attackers succeed in breaching the gate, they find themselves trapped in this killing zone called a masugata.
お城の作り方にはいろいろあるんですけど、まずね、輪っかの中に輪っかを入れていくように輪郭式っていうのがあるんですね。あと定格式って言ってはしご状に、順番に並んでるんですね。一つの三の丸がまずあって、その横にもう一個こう二の丸があって、二の丸を打ち破ると本丸が入るというふうにはしごを登っていくように一個ずつ落としていかなきゃいけないんだけど、これ横から攻められるとですね、横に守るものがあんまりないもんですからちょっと弱いんでね。で、横側は川と海に守られてますから定格式にしてですね。とは言いながら、もし、どっかの外側の廓が破られたとしてもですね、本丸のあたりはこう輪郭式にして丸く囲って四面全体を、堀で囲うという、堀と石垣で囲うという、構造を持っています。
In another technique, called yokoya, walls zigzag to expose an enemy to arrows or gunfire from the sides. When attackers use shields to guard against fire from the front, their flanks will still be unprotected. もう一つ大事な点がですね、石垣からこう横側に向かって撃つことができるような石垣に出っ張りを作っとくわけですね。でその攻めてくる敵を横っ腹からこう射撃をしたり、こう矢で射て撃ち落とすんですけど、当時の鉄砲っていうのは50メーター以内で撃つとむちゃくちゃに効果がある。そう遠くでは威力がないんです。丸い弾ですし、回転がかかってませんので、理想は50メートル以下で、直線は長くても80メートル以下で、なんか屏風のようにちょっと折れたり出っ張りがあったりして死角がない、射撃の死角がないように、してある。当時の鉄砲や弓矢の射程距離を考えてるわけですね。 Inside the Honmaru stands the 9.5 meter tall base for Tenshu main tower or dungeon. However, this Tenshu was never built. Contemporary models and records show a design for a Tenshu. It's thought it was abandoned due to lack of funds for such a powerful fortification, especially in a time of peace. Inside the Honmaru were the residences and gardens of the Ako clan. Unusually, this Honmaru mostly consisted of the Lord's palace. Over 1/3 was covered in buildings, including the omote for official business, the nakaoku, the Lord's living quarters, and the oku for his families. These buildings were dismantled, but now full-scale recreations are being constructed based on old plans and data from excavations. There are gardens in both Honmaru and Ninomaru. The Honmaru garden, laid out for viewing from the residence, has been restored exactly as it was. The Ninomaru Garden was large, occupying about 1/4 of that zone. It is currently being restored based on data from excavations. Ako has been a major salt-producing area since ancient times. Excavations have revealed earthenware vessels for boiling seawater that date back millennia, and evidence of Japan's earliest salt farms from the 8th to 9th centuries. From the 17th century, Ako developed extensive coastal salt farms called Iri-hama, first under the Ikeda clan and later under the Asano and Mori clans. It was at the time that the Asano clan started building their castle that Ako became one of Japan's leading salt producers. Lord Asano Naganao, the castle builder, also ordered the development of large-scale salt farms and brought experts from Himeji and other places to introduce the latest technology. By creating large Iri-hama salt farms below the high water mark that were naturally flooded by the tides, they succeeded in greatly increasing productivity. Ako was soon supplying 7% of the entire nation's salt. This new technology spread throughout the Seto Inland Sea region, which came to provide 80% of the nation's salt. Ako's port of Sakoshi prospered greatly from the salt trade. Salt was shipped from here to Osaka and to the capital of Edo. The splendid homes of rich merchants that still line its streets testify to the wealth of those days. In 2019, the story of salt production in Ako was recognized as a Japan heritage for its role in pioneering the salt industry.
瀬戸内海ってすごく晴天率が高い、要するに晴れるんですよ。それでいろんなところに塩田ができてて、赤穂の塩って言ったら、もう長通っててどこでも取引される時に上位の値段になるんですよ。江戸時代の値段の付き方ってね、一番大きな立派だとされてる産地から何段下るかっていうふうに値段がつくことが多い。でも赤穂の塩も一回ブランディングされますとですね、赤穂の塩ってもう最上位クラスのところにこう並ぶわけですよ。で将軍様のお塩も献上して赤穂塩と値崩れしなかったということなんですね。
The entire layout of the town was also incorporated into the castle's defenses. Scattered around were numerous spots where defending samurai could be concealed. With sharp turns and constantly varying widths, these streets were designed to absorb an attack and sap an enemy's strength during its advance on the castle. You can still see these features along with many temples and old houses from the period. Ako Castle stood for over 2 centuries until the old feudal domains were abolished in the late 19th century during the Meiji Emperor's reforms. Like most of Japan's castles, it was then largely demolished. However, after it was designated a National Historic Site in 1971, excavation work and building reconstruction began, and the castle is now resuming its original appearance. The story of these loyal retainers, the Akogishi, still resonates today as fresh details continue to emerge from research into their castle. Ako Castle, a story that's far from over.